Hey guys, welcome to Interview Week. I'm super excited to share with you guys today Nikki Dockery. Nikki and I actually went to high school together. We did not even really know each other at all in high school, but ended up years later at the same church, which is really cool. After I asked Nikki to be with me today, I was trying to figure out exactly what we should talk about. And I know a little bit of Nikki's story, and the verse that really stuck out to me is Proverbs 16:3, and it's this: commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans. And so Nikki, I know you had a plan for your life, and we're going to talk about how that worked out for you. But share with us at first, like as you were growing up, what was your plan for your life? What did you want your life to look like?
So growing up, I never was a girl who dreamt of having a family or having a husband, and like that just was never something that I thought of. I thought, I'm going to grow up, I'm going to go to college, and I'm going to have this awesome job, and that was my only focus, was just to be a career lady and be successful. That's all I ever wanted. So having children and having a family was never a part of what I wanted for my life, and it was never something that I ever imagined would happen.
So fast forward to your early 20s, you meet this guy named Tim, you guys end up getting married, but again really have no desire to have children. And then after being married for a couple of years, something kind of crazy happened. Tell us about that.
So we had been married just under 2 years, and my sister had a baby, and we didn't know she was pregnant. So it was very surprising to everybody. And unfortunately, he was taken from her a few weeks after he was born. And CPS removed him for various reasons, and she came to us and asked if we would take him temporarily until she kind of got things together and could get him back. So at first we were very, very against it. Then she brought him over, and when we met him, and when I met him, when I saw him, I'm like, we have to take him. I can't say no. I can't say no to him. I can say no to my sister, but I could not say no to him. So that's when we met Caden, and by the time 6 months had passed, we very quickly realized that it was very likely that this was not going to be temporary. And that's when we really started to really think about the longevity of us having a child, for real. We're gonna have a kid. This was not, we're not having kids. This is not in the plan. This is not what we had planned. And I had a lot of talks with God, because I'm like, I don't know what we're doing here. I didn't know anything about kids. I'm just trying to do the right thing here, and I was just so thrown, because I'm like, this is not in my plan. We are just supposed to be married for a long time before that's not even in our thoughts. I never wanted this. So I just really started talking to my husband about okay, so what is this going to look like? Are we going to keep him? When we've had him for this long, so what's next? So that's when the DHS worker, she had kind of talked to us about okay, so your sister's not really doing the things that she should be doing, so we want to start talking to you about if you would want to adopt him at some point. And that's when things became very, very real to us. Wow, this is really happening. And while it was so hard to imagine us being a family and him being our son, it was at the same time so easy, because he was our life. He had become our life, and he had us wrapped around his little finger. And for someone who had never wanted kids and was never a baby person, I mean, that kid took my heart so fast, and I couldn't help but want to do everything for him and want to be his mom. And me saying those words that I was going to be someone's mother was really weird for me, but I just felt God totally pushing me like totally out of my comfort zone to keep pursuing what I knew to be true, that I was going to be his mom. So after about 18 months, the state decided to terminate her rights. And it was hard because it took an effect on our entire family. And it was very hard because at that point, I called him my son, like Caden was my son. And while I didn't know it at the beginning, by that point, I knew that he was my son. And it was hard because it was a win for us and it was a win for Caden, but it wasn't for my sister. And at the end of the day, she's still my sister. So I was brokenhearted. It was very bittersweet because I was sad for her, but happy for us. So just before Caden turned 2, his adoption was finalized, and it was, still today I get so emotional about his adoption because it was such a God thing. It was always God. He had his hand over our lives, over Caden's lives, and we prayed about it constantly. Like, God, if this is your will, if this is your plan for us to be his parents, please make that clear. Please make the path clear for that. And if it's not, then let us bear the burden of the emotional side of it, and just please protect him. Whatever his future looks like, whether we are his parents or not, please protect his life and his future, whether we are his mom and dad or someone else, whatever that is. We want your will to be done, and he made it happen.
That's so amazing and awesome that you realize that even though you had a plan, that God's plan is so much better. But I have to ask you, something else kind of crazy happened through that process with Caden. So what was that?
While we were going through the turmoil of just dealing with my sister and figuring out what our lives were going to look like with Caden, I got pregnant when Caden was 5 months old. Not in the plan, because nobody wants to plan that. So that was, again, not what I had pictured for our life. So Cameron was born just after Caden turned 1. So Cameron was born 1 month after Caden turned 1. So they are 13 months apart. And it was a crazy time in our life. And shortly after that was when my sister's rights were terminated, and then, that's when we began the adoption process, all while having 2 kids under 2. And again, I have to give credit to God, because he is the only reason that we made it through 1 entire year of living with 2 kids under 2, because there were lots of moments where I'm like, what are we doing? How did this happen? Why is this our life? What did we do? This was not good. But, I can say that now and laugh about it, because they're 3 and 4 now, and we're coasting through, and I definitely know that this was God's plan for us. This was his plan for their lives. They are the best of friends, and more than what I wanted or what my husband wanted, like, they just have this unbreakable bond that only God could have built and mastered himself, because it is just incredible. And it was not something that I ever imagined that I would be, a part of, or, that I would ever have children that would be the way that they are with one another. And it's just, it's not a coincidence that our first child was adopted, and our second, we had on accident. It was never an accident. It was an accident to us, but it was not an accident to God.
You have this plan to not have children, and then you end up adopting one, and accidentally having one biologically. At some point, though, your heart and your will started to line up with God's will.
I was like, I had always accepted that they're my children and I am their mom, but that's when I knew that God's plan was for me to be a mother and to accept that role. And thinking, about myself as a 20-something prior to ever having children, it's so foreign to me now to think that I didn't want them. And so when Cameron was just before he turned 2, we got pregnant on purpose, and our youngest was born this year in February, and so we have 3 beautiful boys, and I live every day to show them what Christ has done for me in my life, and that while we might have these glorious plans and what we think that we want our life to look like, sometimes we just need to understand that our plans don't always align with what God's plans are for us. And when we just kind of completely give it up to Him and just accept that His plans are always going to be better than ours, when you accept that and just fully give it over to Him, life is just so much easier. And I'm just so thankful that both my husband and I, accepted that and put our faith in His plan for us instead of what we wanted for ourselves.
So what would you say to someone whose life is not turning out the way they had planned?
I would say that it's probably not going very well for you, and it might just not be easy. And God told us that it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. And if we trust in Him and the plans that He makes for us, if we can follow that with faith and just always looking to Him for guidance, that while it might not be easy, it will be better for us. And I mean, even now, things are not easy. Like, no one's life is easy, and as a Christian, it's not easy to do what we do and to try to always look like Jesus and serve like Jesus and love like Him. But we continue to strive to be that and to be more like Him. And one of the ways that we do that is to go with what He is showing us to do and guiding us to do. And it's not going to be easy. It might be really hard for you, but trust in Him and continue to pray that He will lead you.
Nikki, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us and share a little bit about your story.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, you're welcome. If you guys have appreciated something that Nikki has said, would you do me a favor and just leave her an encouraging comment below, like the video, anything to just show her how much you guys appreciate her. If you are interested in connecting with Nikki, her contact information will be in the description of the video. And for those of you who don't know, Nikki actually has her own blog.
Yeah.
And she talks about a number of things. Go ahead and tell them real quick.
So on my blog, I talk a lot about motherhood, parenting. I do a lot of recipes and just really cool stuff with kids. So you can come check me out at my blog. It's nikkisaidwhat.com.
Yep. And again, that will be in the description of the video as well. Thank you guys for tuning in this week with Solely Devoted. I'll see you guys next Wednesday.